So I hit this point recently where I'd get home from work, sit down at my desk, and just kind of stare. Uh, Sometimes I'd turn on my computer, um, scroll through Steam for a little bit, and eventually conclude that I was too tired to really do anything. And I'd just lay down, take a nap for a bit, until it was time to go, meet my girlfriend for dinner. And then it's kind of just a rinse and repeat from that point. It just kind of feels like most of the energy that I had in the day was going to waste. If I ever even had any. I'd struggle to fall asleep, wake up to get ready and be at work by 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I'd work until 2:30, get off, go home. And it sounded like it was going to be a better time than it was for a number of reasons. But the main one is just, genuinely, most days I was too exhausted to do anything at all. And it kind of was just taking a pretty hefty toll on me. I've always had a little bit of a passion for, creative hobbies. I like music especially as one of my big ones. But it just felt like, at the end of the day, when I theoretically had time to work on anything, I never had the energy. I reached the end of the day and I'd be just completely tapped. And there's just this sort of I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it kind of feels like I was losing a piece of myself. The part of me that enjoys making music or working on these random projects, trying to develop a game, or, for a while I've been trying to get better at art, do some digital art stuff, and there was just not any of that present. I wasn't able to find the energy to do any of those things. It's been a bit of a drag. I guess, I've heard a decent bit about burnout before. It's not something that isn't considered. People do talk about it. I guess I just thought that maybe I'd be a little better at handling it or something, or I don't know. It would operate a little bit differently than it did. And maybe the problem is I just wasn't good enough at recognizing it until it got, bad enough that it was like very noticeable to myself. I think part of that struggle might also just kind of stem from school. I just finished my degrees, but they weren't necessarily the most exciting thing. And I didn't always agree with all of the classes that I had to take because they didn't feel the most pertinent to my development in what I was studying. The the downside of things. My degrees were listed under the business school at my university, and a part of those degrees were business acumen classes, which are basically round 2 of generals, just business specific things. So I get to give the business school even more money for a degree that I'm already paying differential tuition on every single class for. I won't get too deep into that. I've got a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth from that experience. And I guess I kind of got stuck in a sunk cost fallacy on the side of, for a while I was feeling like things were just not working out with me in that degree, or just the way that the classes were structured and everything. But I was already far enough in that I didn't think it would be a smart decision to change. So I stuck it out. My last two semesters, probably some of the worst semesters I've ever had of school, just by way of motivation. You know, I could hardly bring myself to get anything done, and it was just a bad time overall. And that's just, I don't know, it's hard, because what else are you supposed to do in that situation? Because I don't necessarily have the answer of, like, if I did switch, what would I have switched to, you know? But I don't think that's necessarily a unique situation to be in. And something I've always noticed, or I guess I more recently have noticed, as I've been sort of dealing with burnout and trying to get back from it, is when I can convince myself to stop making excuses and actually work on some of my creative endeavors, it tends to help out a lot. You know, I mean, I've just got so many things that I enjoy working on. The big one recently that I've been getting back into is just music. Playing instruments, working on songs. I haven't finished anything in a while. And the stuff that I have finished, I don't love enough to put out. So it's just it's been a personal endeavor. You know, just pursuing creativity for the sake of pursuing it, but nonetheless, it's been beneficial. But yeah, I just, you know, when it comes to burnout, I feel like there's, and maybe it's just a misconception I have, but I feel like there's a misconception about what burnout looks like, you know? I was expecting just more immediate effects, or, you know, a different form of what it was. I really just expected it to look different. But at least for me, what it really turned into was just not doing the things that I used to love. You know, I mean, it was it was hard to do anything besides it was hard to have the motivation to do anything besides just, you know, sleep instead of being awake. And there's just like, yeah, I don't know, this weird wall right between what I am doing and what I want to be doing. You know, just in everything too, including this channel. But you know, I've got half-finished music projects for content. You know, I'd plan a video. I mean, heck, I've still got a video from maybe over a year ago that I wrote out part of a script for, and when it came down to it, you know, what I've got for finishing that video is really just recording B-roll, playing through a game to be able to get the story beats I want. And I just haven't for some reason. But it's, I don't know, it's just a unique, or maybe not unique, but hard to describe feeling. I just, yeah, I could not get myself to start or finish any projects that I had already started, just across the board. It's been a bit of a struggle. And then I think one of the hardest parts about that end of things as well, is, let's say you do finally find some sort of motivation, you convince yourself that you have enough time to work on what you want to be working on, and then you start doing this thing, and you feel guilty about it. You feel like you're wasting time that you should be spending on something else, something a little more concrete, something that has inherent, direct, immediate value, instead of something, like working on a song, creating a video, drawing, that sort of a thing. It's a negative feedback loop, right? Or on the flip side of that, when you're sitting there doing nothing all day, or doing nothing with the free time you have in the day, I at least started to also just feel guilty about not pursuing those creative endeavors, which again negatively loops back into that same problem, where motivation is just at an all-time low, and it's super annoying to find yourself in that sort of a loop. I kind of reached a bit of a breaking point, and I was talking with a couple of my friends the other week, just in a Discord call at night. I was ranting a little bit about my job, and how I just kind of felt stuck in what I was doing, where I was versus where I wanted to be. And it's also kind of hard sometimes. So all of my friends kind of went to school with things that they were a little more passionate about, those of them that ended up going to school. And I mean, frankly, they're all in at least semi-creative. I say semi-creative. The least creative thing that they're doing is teaching in arts programs. Like that's the that's the big thing. So they're still pretty heavily involved in these passions that they've had their whole lives. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here, I've got a job that I really don't enjoy. Finishing 2 degrees up in fields that I'm not necessarily passionate about. That's the big thing. I don't hate my degrees or anything outside of the coursework again, but that's a different beast. But it's just I don't know, it's different. And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to them, complaining about these things. And I don't know, whether they were joking or not, they were like, man, just quit, do something else. And I didn't really think about it like that, and I mean, obviously I considered quitting my job, because I hated it, but it's I don't know, I guess it's just kind of scary, right? But there's something about just other people kind of validating that, that helps. And so that's kind of where I am now. I'm at a point where I've realized that there's not anybody but me who's gonna hand me some kind of schedule or whatever to fix my day and be like, okay, here are the times that you can be creative, and have it be useful. I guess I could technically have somebody schedule out my day for me, but I don't know that would do a whole lot besides make things seem less natural. That's one of the big ones, I guess if you try to force it to, and that's the hard part as well, just the way that my stuff was going, it just felt like I needed to force myself to sit down and be creative, which is, antithetical to the idea. And yeah, I kind of found myself in this very unsustainable situation. But yeah, so I decided to take a little bit of a leap. I quit my job, and now I am trying to figure out what exactly I'm gonna do to make sure that I can still get things I need while being able to do the things I want to. And you know, it's kind of just like I'm at the point where I just needed to stop trying to wait for the motivation to come. And kind of force myself into a position where it would be more readily available. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. And I want to talk about what I'm building towards this year, because I've got some things that I want to get done. And, you know, saying them out loud brings a little bit of an accountability type thing into it. Makes it a little more real, right? Okay, yeah, so YouTube, right? That's this channel. You know, if you're seeing this, you're here with me right now. I've kind of just been sitting on this channel for too long, you know. It's been I don't know how many years at this point. But I haven't put in the work to make something out of it yet. So I'd really like to work on changing that. You know, I'd like a little bit more consistent releases, some different levels of effort into some videos. You know, some things are gonna be. I really want to finish up this one video I've been thinking about for a while. We'll see if it ends up happening, but it was a No Man's Sky video. That I just need to put my head down and work on to get things that I wanted done for that, so that I can put it out. That one would be a little bit of a higher effort video, but between higher effort and then some different forms of content, just to see what sticks. But I wanna try and grow this. And let's see, the day that I'm recording this, it is May 15th, or sorry, May 13th. I can read. I think I've got 7 months left in the year, right? My hope is that 3 months from now, come August, I want to get up to at least 50 subs. We're at 15 on this channel right now. So I just want to get a little bit of growth behind it, you know, get some audience members growing. So some content will come out of that naturally. Things like this, you know. I think the majority of my focus on YouTube is probably gonna be some long form ones. I mean, short form content is, love it or hate it, would be probably the biggest vector for growth on the platform, so there will be some of those as well. Most likely just pulling things from streams, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I might try and get into the clipping game for myself. But yeah, so long form things, you know, maybe gameplay content of some sort, deep dives on some games that I really enjoy. Again, looking at No Man's Sky, that would be that style of video, is a deeper dive into a couple things there. And yeah, I just want. I guess that's my biggest thing, right? I need to put a little bit more emphasis into just putting out content. You know, things don't need to be perfect, but they do need to exist. Otherwise, nobody will ever find me. But yeah, so my goal is to stop staying in the like workshopping phase for forever on literally everything I do. I want to start actually shipping some things out, you know. So then streams, right? I've been streaming on Twitch for, again, way longer than I can think of off the top of my head. But I really have not put enough motion behind it to get it going anywhere. And I'd like to change that as well. So I wanna become more consistent. You know, get a schedule going and stick to it. Work to get some growth, and I think that'll be the main driver for like the short form content and maybe some longer form content pulled from trimming down the VODs or whatever. But I don't know, it's so hard. I think I'm still gonna just stick to kind of doing whatever I feel like doing in the moment. I know it's a little easier to grow if I stick to a niche, or niche. I don't know how people pronounce it. I've always said niche. Anyway, that's tangential. I know it's a little bit easier to grow if you just choose one niche that you sit inside of and you grow there. That's not me. You know, I like variety. I like being able to do things, different things. And I think it'll feel more genuine and organic if that's what I continue doing. So expect variety still, and maybe I'll set up a couple days where it's I'm playing the same thing on those days or whatever. But yeah, when it comes to streams, expect continued variety. That's the big one there. Yeah, like I was saying, shorts and clips. Sorry, I've got a couple talking points that I was just jotting down. Just wanted to make sure that I was covering everything that I had on my mind. So yeah, short form content. Probably gonna trim those out of VODs and stuff like that. And then music. This one's a little bit separated from this sort of platform, you know. It's not associated with the notable adversary brand, so to speak. So this one's more for myself than it is for you, though you'll hear about it if I do release anything, for sure. But I just want to like actually finish a song and get it to the point where I feel proud of it. I've got one sitting in a demo stage right now, basically. I want to get something fully completed, something like basically release ready. And whether or not I release it, I'm not sure. But even just for me to prove to myself that I can, you know. So that's the big one there. And that's just, I don't know. I know this has been a little bit of a ramble, a little bit more of a ramble than I intended for it to be. But that's kind of just where I'm at. And you know, I won't like sit here and pretend I have everything figured out, because I certainly do not. Let me see if I can get past these guys real quick. Shoot. Well, hold on. Okay. Sorry. I certainly don't have everything figured out, as much as I wish I did. And I also will not be the authority to sit here and tell you, like, oh, if you don't like where you're at, quit your job, change your degree, that sort of a thing. Because everybody's in a different place, and different life situations, that sort of a thing. What I will tell you to do, though, is if you find yourself, burnt out, and you feel like maybe you don't have time, or I just really, if you feel like your creative side is fading, or just not as active as you used to be or want to be, I think it's the move to just find a way to start creating again. I've found it incredibly useful to have a creative outlet, just to recover from being so burnt out. So just like, yeah, wherever you're at, if you've got something you want to work on, just start. Don't wait for somebody to give you permission. Because I mean, it might never happen, and also, if someone else tells you to do it, it'll feel less like you, if that makes sense. Yeah, again, this wasn't the most organized. I didn't put too much of a script together. I just had things I wanted to talk about. So if you've made it this far, thank you. I hope you stick around, tune in to see where things go, and yeah, I appreciate your time. I hope to see you again in the future. And if you've got something that you want to be doing, start that project. There's no better time than now. But yeah, so thank you, and I will catch you next time.